So the Nightfall for this week is the Scarlet Keep. It is the final Grandmaster Nightfall of the season, and currently right now, Silicon Aroma is what is dropping. But tweeted from DMG, in regards to the catch-up node for Grandmaster Nightfalls, he stated that they're looking into Palindrome. So I think at some point this week, they may actually replace Silicon Aroma for Palindrome, considering that Palindrome is going away after this season. You will not be able to re-earn it next season. Now, modifiers for this week include Fire Pits, where those acolytes spawn those fire pools that cause damage over time, extremely annoying. Barrier and Unstoppable champions, all the Grandmaster modifiers. Shielded foes include Arc and Solar Shield, although if you have one person on your team rocking Arbalest, it can deal with both of those shields just fine. We also have double Vanguard rank going on, although I think many people would just prefer double loot. And then Acute Arc Burn, where we deal 25% more arc damage, but receive 50% more arc damage, which is pretty devastating in this Nightfall, considering things like the boomers, the wizards, pretty much everything. And that's the thing about these burns, guys. They change the Nightfall for me because of how quickly you get melted. Now, let me go over my build real quick. Considering we have Arc Burn, I am taking advantage of our Yeet Titan. That damage is really, really nice. Essentially, one banging champions. I'm also using Witherhoard, as it's one of the best when it comes to ad control, and the Rocket Launcher Hothead. This is my tracking Vorpal roll, and I know Explosive Light is better, but if you're in a situation where you're not actively getting those orbs, and in my case, especially in the boss room where I'm cheesing and I'm up top, I'd rather just take the 10% extra damage, right? Now, the bow that I'm using is this Wolf Tone Draw, primarily because this one comes with Shoot to Loot. Now, the reason why I'm taking advantage of Shoot to Loot is look where I'm at. I'm literally at the top of these doorways, and how you get here is in the boss room. As soon as you kill the first two initial wizards, you'll push on through, and then you'll jump up to these pile of bones, and then proceed to jump up to the top of that doorway, and you can actually go back and forth. Now, you can bring your entire team in here, although it is kind of tight, and ads down below will hide from you. But if you're looking for guaranteed finishes of this Nightfall, this is it. And this is primarily where I lived, guys. I was just staying up here. Les and Captain Kev was actually sitting down below, hanging back, and I would just clean up anything that was pushing them and also deal damage to the boss. And every now and then, they will focus their attention toward me, so you do have to kind of like peek down into cover so they won't kill you. But this is a really good cheese spot, guys. If you want to take advantage of this, and especially considering the arc burns being as bad as they are, feel free to do so here. Now, Les was actually rocking Chaos Reach with essentially the same loadout that I was rocking, although he didn't have a shoot to loot bow or a shoot to loot weapon. And then Cam Kevman was actually rocking Arbalest with Bubble, more of a defensive measure in case he needed to grab that res. The only other mod I would definitely suggest having is, of course, Lucent Finisher for your teammates. And whoever it is that's getting the finishes off, take advantage of mods like Reactive Pulse, where you gain that overshield when you go in for the finish. That's really nice. You can also take advantage of Echo of Obscurity if you're on a Void class, just so you gain that invisibility upon those finishes. And considering how many champions are in these Nightfalls, guys, use your heavy. Like, literally use that before you use your special. You will top your heavy off easily. Now, let's just go through this Nightfall real quick on the best way to progress through this thing before we get into the cheese talk a little more, because I do want to mention there are ways in which you can spawn back into the main room from the cheese room. But the Nightfall opens up in the Sorrow's Harbor. You'll have some acolytes to deal with, as well as Revenant Knight. Deal with these guys, push forward. You'll be on the cliff side, and you'll be dealing with acolytes the whole way down. Be very careful, guys. They can spawn that fire underneath you, which can wreck you very fast. Now, upon pushing into this open area, you'll have a barrier champion down there. Deal with that guy. Squeeze off a finish if you need to. Deal with the acolytes, and then push forward. Now, this area, you're gonna have a wizard directly to your left with some acolytes and also some acolytes in front of you. This is where like the beauty of Witherhoard is. I would actually just place a Witherhoard shot in a spot I didn't want to deal with so that I can focus the area that my teammates are looking at. Also, low-key, flashbang grenades are really good in this Nightfall, and really any blinding capability is super good. So if you want to rock like a blinding grenade launcher, go right ahead. Now, moving into this open area where you're actually having to break the spell in order to lower that bridge, you have a champion on your left and your right. Normally we push to one side, but be very careful. The guys from the other side can still sneak you. You can deal with the acolytes, but then proceed to move forward. And as you move down to either one of these sides, more ants will be spawning, and you'll be met with a wizard at the end. Deal with that wizard, proceed to pick up the orb, and then move forward. And you'll now have some Thrall, some acolytes, and another barrier champion waiting for you at the top. Deal with that guy, and then proceed to look to the other side. And if you haven't killed that other champion, you'll have to deal with him now, and then proceed to move all the way to the end here and deal with that wizard as well. And again, when you're actually moving around these sides, don't stay grouped up, considering that you have have these waves and barrages of arc damage coming your way, you don't want to stay stacked on top, which is why like a lot of times I would like run to the outside, place a Witherhoard shot, and literally hide. Upon killing this wizard, you'll move back, and normally like right here, I like to get a vertical angle on the champion down low, as well as the acolytes. Deal with these guys, kill these cursed thrall, and upon putting in that last orb, the drop bridge will lower. Now, when that drop bridge lowers, a ton of ads will spawn, as well as an unstoppable ogre. Now, you can use your supers here. Chaos Reach is what Les was using, and he would just shred out all the ads, and then we would focus the unstoppable champions. My only concern with squaring up too long with this unstoppable champion, behind that champion are snipers. And even though they're doing void damage, for some unknown reason, it could still one-shot you, right? Like, I know we've got burns, but everything can still kill you very fast. But upon dealing with these guys, you'll move up, and this will spawn in 2 wizards on either side. Be very careful. They can sneak you very quickly. Whoever it is that's rocking an Arbalest on your team, shred those guys on either side. Or if you're rocking a solar weapon, deal with them, and then proceed to move up. And this is when a number of ads will spawn, a Shrieker will also spawn, and a barrier champion will also be in that middle area. I normally would just go in and yeet that barrier champion, and while I was yeeting that barrier champion, Les and Kev would actually deal with the Shrieker above me, just so that I wouldn't get killed immediately out of my super. But upon dealing with that champion and those acolytes, you'll be pretty much cleared of this room, and you're gonna move up to the next area. Now, dealing with all these ads up top along this stairway, you'll have a wizard to deal with, but then you'll push past it, going into the area where you actually have to capture those totems. You have a barrier champion to deal with, so it's a great opportunity to go ahead and get a finisher here to top that heavy off, and then move to that middle totem. Now, no lie, this room can be pretty hectic, considering you've got wizards in front of you, you've got champions that are also spawning in every time you go to capture one of these. My only suggestion is just take one totem at a time. Do not run around and activate all these totems, or you will get overwhelmed. One totem at a time, and normally I would actually place my barricade in the middle to just block off that champion. That way we can purely concentrate on the acolytes and the other ads. But upon dealing with these guys and dealing with that champion, you'll pretty much do that on every single totem. You'll have a wizard to deal with initially, and then you'll proceed to deal with that barrier champion that spawns in and those ads, and you'll have to do that on either side. But upon dealing with these guys, you'll then continue pursuing Hash Ladoon, which will require you pushing up through the moon side into the Tower of Woe. You'll be met with the barrier champion here on the cliff side, and this is another area that can get you in a bind. Again, I know we focus on like arc damage, but void damage will still melt you. I threw a flashbang here a couple times, and it actually worked really well, blinding out my enemies. Witherhoard was also fantastic here, just kind of shoving enemies back, right? Deal with these champions, and then you'll have a champion on that bridge area. Now, I tried to yeet him. This is what I'm talking about, man. This is insane. I actually popped my Yeet Titan, and the Shrieker shredded me before I made contact. Now, I probably could have dodged some of those shots. I think I was kind of like supering directly into the shots. But essentially, guys, whoever it is that opens up the Shrieker, like if you are on Yeet, your teammates really need to focus on the Shrieker to help you out. Like that's the moment where Les and Kev really need to open up with rockets or snipers or arbalists and just shred that Shrieker before it shreds me. And you really do want to try to yeet this barrier champion as quickly as possible, or it will be extremely annoying if he gains high ground on you, which he definitely does. And these guys, man, they dodge like crazy. So just save yourself the frustration and just yeet that guy. Now you'll push toward the end here. You'll have another barrier champion as well as other acolytes to deal with. And now we enter the elevator room. Now the elevator room has 3 different pillars, right? Right here in the middle. When you go in, you want to stand behind the left pillar first. The reason why this is the case is because the direction in which the doors are opening places the pillar in between you and them. Now you're going to start with that left one and then work your way clockwise. So then you're going to go to the right and then back to the middle one. So again, top left and then work clockwise. Now going up to the next level, you'll step off and you'll have barrier champions on either side. Deal with those guys, and I would honestly advise dealing with those guys before pushing too deeply on either side, because if you push in too deeply from one side, you're going to double stack that wizard with that barrier champion. Again, if you want to take that risk, go right ahead, but that's just my suggestion. But after dealing with that wizard and those barrier champions, move back into the room, pop the crystal, and again, now you're going to move clockwise to the other pillar. And if you're having trouble knowing which side is which, you can always just look up and see which doors are open, and that'll give you an understanding of which side you need to get to very quickly. Now, enter into this next area, you're going to be met with an unstoppable champion right off the bat. Deal with that guy who have a number of ads around him, and then you'll have acolytes on either side of you as well as a wizard. Again, take this opportunity to restock your ammo. And I will say this, I don't know what it is about these wizards, even not even getting the finishes off. I felt like they dropped ammo pretty often, so we always kind of had ammo topped off going into the boss room. Although don't depend on it, get the finishes off on champions when you're rocking Lucent Finisher. It doesn't seem to be working on these mini bosses. Aeon Gauntlets would, but not Lucent. Now again, rotate clockwise yet again, get behind that pillar, shield yourself if you need to. And now we enter the boss room. Now, when you enter the boss room, you'll have the 2 wizards directly in front of you. Deal with both of those guys, and you have options here. You can either stay in this room and just deal with everything together, which is risky. You've got unstoppable champions, boomers, everything is splashing with arc damage. It's chaotic. It's very easy to wipe in this room. Easier than ever before with these acute burns. I prefer to push on through. And if you got a shoot to loot weapon, this will work perfectly for you. Push on through, hop up to that pile of bones, and then get up to that upper area. And you'll have to jump up a little bit to squeeze off shots. But if you're rocking things like rockets and Wither Horde, jumping up and popping shots off is not difficult. And even if your shots aren't perfect, that's all right. Getting kills, your teammates getting kills, you'll start to see ammo on the ground. Whatever your weapon is that you're using for shoot to loot, pop it one time and voila, you got ammo back. Guys, I never had to get down. I never ran out of ammo. I had plenty of ammo to deal with the boss and the champions and everything else. And simultaneously, the beautiful thing about having at least one person in this cheese spot is that it draws the attention of the enemies away sometimes from my teammates from down below. Now again, you can have all 3 of you go up here. The only problem with that is sometimes ads will get behind pillars and just sit there. And it can be very annoying trying to get them to come out from behind it. So that's why we had Les and Kev down there. I will say this though, if you are in the cheese spot and you suddenly find yourself needing to get back into the next room, you can actually jump off. Kev did it. He literally jumped right off the ledge and it will do a joining allies function and he spawned right back into the room. Now don't do what I did. I did like a ballistic slam, which pretty much killed me, right? But you can do that and you can get right back in the room. So if you suddenly find yourself with no ammo and you want to contribute in some way, or maybe you're just wanting to get back in the room, again, just hop off the back there and you'll spawn right in. Honestly though, if you have a shoot to loot weapon, and I know a couple weapons that have it, I think Felt Tittle can come with shoot to loot, which is a bow, which is perfect here, and it's a craftable weapon. You also got things like Servant Leader, Wolf Tone Draw, of course, Pointed Inquiry, Vulpecula. There are other weapons you can use that have shoot to loot. And in this situation, when it comes to taking advantage of this cheese, I would highly suggest it. So guys, that is your Nightfall guide for this week. Again, Palindrome is not dropping right now, but as soon as I catch wind of it getting fixed, I promise I'll let you guys know in the comment down below. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.